Hi, and welcome back to the channel. This week I'd like to address the topic of older properties and what to look for if you're getting out and looking at those properties. The three items that I'm going to cover today are going to be some of the more basic ones, some of the bigger ones that you should be looking for as you get out and look at those properties. For me specifically, I start to think of older properties, anything that's really older than 1980, getting into the 70s, into the 60s, start to create some issues or concerns from what needs to be updated and the types of things that need to be updated. So that's really where I think of the older home mark kind of starts for me. The first thing that I'm going to be looking for is going to be really the age of the roof of the property itself. Now, I believe I've mentioned in other videos, when you're looking at the roof, you typically have got about 20 to 25 years, depending on the type of weather that the property has been in, the amount of sun, the amount of rain, potentially even snow, that can really affect the age of the roof. So make sure that you understand that you have 20, 25 years for each time that the roof needs to be kind of redone or needs to be torn off and redone. So if you're looking at a property that's 25 years old, it's got the original roof on it, know that you've got that expense coming. If you're looking at a property that's 30 years old but had the roof replaced maybe 10 years ago, know that in 10 to 15 years you're going to have that expense of replacing the roof when that does happen. Now you may be looking at properties that were built in the 60s, or maybe they were built in the 70s, and maybe that roof has been replaced multiple times. If that is the case, just make sure that you understand the last time that roof was replaced, so that you know how much time is going to be there and what your investment is going to be in the next couple years, depending on the requirements of the roof. So make sure you know the age of the roof and you know when the last time that it was replaced. I even like to know things as to who replaced it, what time of the year did they replace it, just so that I have more information about that itself. So don't forget, you've got about 20, 25 years each time that roof needs to be replaced. So make sure you're doing the math to kind of reverse that out to know what your investment is going to be. The second thing that I'm going to talk about is lead-based paint. And I know the more specifics when it comes to the U.S. market here. I'm not so familiar with what that looks like outside of the U.S., but in 1978 there was some regulations around removing lead from paint itself. And so if you have a property that was is older than 1978, something that was built in the 70s, 60s, and even before that, there is a high probability that you are going to have lead-based paint in the property. Now, there are some health issues, some health concerns that can be associated with that, if the paint is kind of chipped or flaking, and so there's a lot that can go into that. But knowing the year of when that house was built and kind of when it was painted will help you understand what type of paint is in that property and if there is something to worry about. The great thing about it is you can encapsulate that paint. There are things that painters can do to make sure that paint is kind of sealed so that there are no issues or concerns for you. And also, lead-based paint has to be disclosed if you're purchasing a property. So the seller themselves does have to make you aware if there is lead-based paint in that property so that you can make sure you're taking the proper precautions if you do purchase or if you do intend to kind of encapsulate it or paint over it. So make sure that you understand what's happening with the lead-based paint, if there's lead-based paint in the property itself, and what you need to do to kind of ensure that it's not an issue moving forward. So check up on that lead-based paint. That is the second item for today. The third thing that I'm going to talk to you about is electrical. Now, most electrical panels or electrical systems have about a 25 to 40-year timeline, if you will. Again, the 1960s, the 1970s are what I start to consider older properties. And the reason for that is what we call the amps for that property itself. Back in the 60s and 70s, they were done at a lower amps. So you may have a home that was 30, 40, 50, 60 amps for the entire house. And a lot of that is due to the fact that there wasn't as much electricity in homes then in the 60s and 70s as there is today. So you think of the number of TVs in a house, the washer and dryer and what they require. You've got dishwashers, you've got just so much more stuff that's happening in the house that you actually need more amps in the property to be efficient. Now, if you're looking at stuff from the 60s and 70s, a lot of times what will happen is that electric panel or the electrical system may have been updated. A great way to do that is to go to the electric panel and check the number of breakers that you have and the amps of the breakers that are in that panel itself. This is not something that I would recommend as kind of as someone who's just investing in the property to really do that research. It's simple and easy for you to look at the panel if you understand what you're looking for. If you don't, make sure that you just take a picture of it. Make sure that you can send it to an electrician that you know or who does a bunch of work for you. They can easily take a look at that electric panel and give you some quick updates. Has it been updated? Is it the original? Is it going to require updating? So they can quickly run you through those items, in most cases just from a quick picture. So make sure that you understand what's happening with the electric panel. That is something that can be a major cost and a major update into a property that you're looking for. So again, older homes, this is something that you need to look at. I hope today was helpful. Again, if you're out looking at older homes, the three things that I'm going to look at very quickly are going to be the roof, understand the age is at 20 to 25 years, kind of do the math to understand where you are and what's required as an update. Make sure you understand what's happening around lead-based paint. Again, in the US, that's around 1978 when lead-based paint was kind of stopped. Third, understand what's happening with the electric panel. Again, you've got about 25, 40 years in the service life of that electric panel. Make sure that you take a picture of it. If you don't truly understand what's happening in that panel, make sure that you get that picture, send it over to an electrician, and they can quickly give you some information about that panel. Again, I hope today was helpful. If you're out looking at old homes, I believe these are three kind of tips or tricks that can help you understanding what's happening in that property. As always, leave questions and comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
I've just closed my eyes again, climbed aboard the dream we've a train.